All right, everyone, we have two very special guests. I've been trying to get these guys on. I know, they're busy. We're busy. I'm super excited to get them on. It is Saturday, and it is Tom from the Is It Saturday Yet YouTube channel here. We'll get into a little bit about why we have these guys on, but Saturday and Tom, just how you guys doing?
Oh, doing well. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a good day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I have been really getting into Trench Crusade. We were talking earlier that I kind of found out about it last year, and I knew
Mhm.
it was in beta, but really, I think the lore intrigued me, but I think especially once the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent came out, that's really when I'm like, okay, this is some pretty good stuff here. And
Yeah.
one of the channels that I've really been loving your reports is it Saturday Yet? I love you guys set up. I was just talking before this how you guys have just this awesome setup, and I love your games. I love the bigger games that you guys are playing too. Um, so yeah, just maybe just could each of you, we're gonna get into a lot of the Trench Crusade stuff, but maybe before we start, could each of you maybe tell us a little bit about, how you got started into wargaming, and this sort of interesting hobby that we have.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think for both of us, it really started with Warhammer Fantasy. I
Hmm.
had a buddy who really wanted us to get into it. I had no idea what any of the, armies were or any of that. And, I always liked the Drow, the Dark Elves, so of course that's what I picked. And my brother here picked the High Elves, so we were immediately pitted against each other. The War of Eternity. And my buddy who got us into it had a high elf army, so that really kind of sent us into it. And that was shoot. We were still in high school. We're going on 10 plus years ago now. So yeah, about a decade.
yeah. So, like, when we were little kids, too, we were playing Hero Clicks. Our dad was super into Batman, super into comic books, and he just picked him
Hmm.
up as an impulse buy because he's great at that and gave them to us. And he even made like a whole 3x3 multi-tiered map for us to play on. He got us into
Yeah.
terrain building with it,
Oh, dude,
even,
your dad is
and that was
awesome.
crazy. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
he used
wish
to be
my
a school
parents.
teacher, so he's like super into the hands-on like stuff with the kids, which is fantastic because we both have our littles now. And I mean they paint with us, so like
Wow.
father like son there, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I wish your parents were my, like, I started gaming in the 90s. That was still whenever all this was still Satan worshiping. So it's like I
Oh
had
yeah.
Well,
conversations with
tough.
my parents specifically, like, I'm not worshiping the devil. It's like I'm just playing games. Oh my goodness. Well, that's awesome. Oh man, and Hero Clicks. I mean, as a person who's a huge Mage Knight fan, I mean, like, Hero Clicks are great. I know they've switched it over, but that's some terrific stuff. Um,
We had dabbled with the Mage Knights, but when we were, I don't know, what, 8 and 7, or well, maybe 9 and 7 years old, somewhere in that age range. The Mage Knights, it was like, okay, those are cool, but the superheroes, we were just like, oh yeah, we could focus right in on that.
oh yeah, and you could play with less too. I mean, I know that Hero Clicks is still going strong. So,
Is
well,
it? Yeah, man,
it's
I had no
strongish.
idea.
I mean, strongish for like. I mean, I know some of my friends are like they're running tournaments. So yeah, yeah.
This is 20 years after the fact too, so yeah, I'd say that's pretty good.
Now I have to ask. So you got into Warhammer Fantasy. So did you get in before they blew up the world? And is that
Oh yeah.
and then how did
We
y'all
didn't
feel
even know
about
that
high elves
end
and
times
dark?
happened.
And how did y'all feel about high elves and
Yeah.
dark elves getting put on the same team?
Yeah, I mean, we started just after I think 7th edition had launched.
Hmm.
And I was salty because I didn't get my Dark Elf updates for a little while. And then by the time 8th edition came around, same thing. So it was like, oh boy. And then by the time, Age of Sigmar came out, it was like, okay, we like the models, but I wasn't as happy with, kind of the I guess just the general gameplay loop of AOS. And
Mm-hmm.
so we reverted. I mean, we kind of jumped back to 6th edition, which is kind of funny because I think that's the edition that Pyrenin had primarily worked
Yeah.
on too.
Yeah.
And it also kind of serendipitous in the way that that worked out. And we just enjoyed the rule set and the way it worked, and we were mostly playing against each other and maybe another buddy locally here or there. So didn't really get into the tournament scene, and
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, it was like, all right, well, we'll just keep playing sixth edition until something else comes out. And we found Mordheim like 15 years too late, so we kind of delved into that for a good time.
Oh
And
wow! So y'all were
Yeah.
so if y'all are playing these stuff by uh uh um, Thomas Piernan, where did y'all hear about Trench Crusade? How did that sort of pop into your like? Yeah, how did you hear about this?
Yeah, so I actually saw like one of the first social media posts, whatever, saying like, "Oh, Piernan's got this new thing," and that was right around the time of the first Kickstarter, like right when James and Mike had recruited him, because they were coming out with the model range, and they were like, "Hey, dude, can you write these rules?" And so, yeah, I saw the first posts put on Reddit or whatever platform. I was obsessing over Mordheim, and
Mhm.
we just immediately dove in,
Wow.
immediately started kit bashing. I had just got a 3D printer, and so ended up making several war bands, kit bashed, and just like that also spurred. I ended up making, I don't know, 8 different armies for bolt action because that
Yeah,
led me down like a whole rabbit hole of other awesome stuff.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I've been following your bat reps. Your bat reps are definitely something that I'm a big tactical guy, and I love watching bat reps to see how the game plays. Um, and so what drew you to Trench Crusade? Was it the lore? Was it the game system? Some sort of combination? What is there one singular thing that really just caught you, or is it a multitude of things?
Well,
Um,
for me,
yeah,
it
you take it
was it
first.
was definitely the art because I'm a big Path of Exile fan,
Hmm.
and Path of Exile 2 was coming out, and I was familiar with Mike Franchina's artwork, but not. I mean, I played Magic the Gathering forever. He had done some of that. And so I had seen his art and enjoyed it, without knowing, who the artist was. And Tom here had kind of put two and two together for me, and it was just like, okay, yeah, we're going to delve into this. This is going to be really cool. And I mean, I think really that was the catalyst for the whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah, the art is very. It's very cool. Yeah, I do agree. Like it has its own specific take.
Mhm.
Now for me, it's actually for me. I think the art. I guess the art is good, but I've seen like I don't know. I don't know if you know these days. There's so much great art, but I don't know. For me, it was really the
Yeah.
lore itself that sort of like um really sort of goes back to just a different time in wargaming, like those early 40K and like even early. I don't know if you read some earlier versions of Age of Fantasy where yes, it was screwed up, but it was also just a little just
Mhm.
weird and just sort of funky almost. Um
Right.
so is there like a favorite faction that you guys have that you're drawn to or just a piece of lore that you really just are drawn to? Yeah, something like that.
Oh man, for me, New Antioch just like encompasses everything that I feel like Trench Crusade is, you know?
Okay.
And so like every bit of it, I mean, it's like World War One, World War Two soldiery combined with just like all this medieval stuff and all the esoteric shit, and it it really just checks every box for me because I'm kind of a like history nerd, and at that, like especially some of the weird side of things, esoterica, and so that it gets me.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, I love that you bring it because that's my favorite faction to Antioch. Saturday, how about you? What are you sort of drawn to?
Well, you know, I've been maining the Court of the Seven, at least in our current battle report series. But honestly, the Trench Pilgrims are what initially had grabbed me. And that was the first army I fully painted and was very proud of. And a very good friend of ours wanted to play Pilgrims in our campaign series. So I loaned him my army, and he has been wiping the walls with me. At least our last 3 games I've played against him. And I mean, as much fun as the demons are to play, my heart is with pilgrims. I feel for them. I really enjoy playing them. They have so many different options, and yeah, I don't know. That's probably my go-to.
I have to say that like I played against one guy who played trench programs, and I so want to like play them and play like a what are the nuns, I guess? I forgot what they're called. They're
Oh,
the
the stigmatic
stigmatic
nuns.
nuns. Yeah, I mean, I'm all like, like for me, it's like I've got a Kings of War army that it's a Crusader army, and that like everything I do, it's like I go for like Grey Knights and 40k, and like for Infinity,
Mhm.
I got into Infinity and I knew nothing about the lore. I just saw a faction that had nuns with guns, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go. So yeah, and they play really good. Like he was playing those nuns, and like wow, they look like they feel like such a high skill cap unit that I'm really just like it looks really cool to play. Yeah.
Yeah, you pull the build off right, and they are just exceptional. I'm throwing, 200-300 Ducats at a Praetor and anything else. To be fair, in the Court of the Seven, and he's got this nun that's worth like 120 at the end of the campaign, and just absolutely curb stomps my Praetor. So it's like, okay, all right, something's going on here.
Okay.
Uh,
Now
I don't know. They're too good.
yeah. But the court,
Don't nerf them.
yeah. Well, the court, I really, I thought I wasn't really that into Valor until I think the court came out. Because I think the court to me really showed a lot about where they're going in the lore and a lot of what they're doing in the lore. So I really
Yeah.
liked them. I mean, the lore was good before, but before it was, the heretics were very nebulous, I felt, and sort of, I don't know. So, I mean, not that they were wrong. It's just like I felt the court really gave a very good idea of what they want, and I don't know. I thought the court was the great addition to the game. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Now I'm really seeing it. Um
No, I totally agree because like I don't know, the heretics at first, I mean, I really liked the art and just the idea of the warband, but it just felt like, okay, here's your evil pilgrims or
mhm.
your evil, I know that's, evil TM, but or your evil Antioch or whatever. It's like, okay, all right, there's still foot soldiers and so on, but when the demons released, it was like, oh, this is new. What is a 60 millimeter base? Like what? So
Now, one thing that, and I try to follow some of the discourse, but one thing I think I like about Trench Crusade, and I'm also a big fan. I don't know if y'all like. I love those types of stories, like maybe Dark Souls, where there's some mystery to. I love that there is some sort of that there's a mystery behind the lore. Like I know I was following the Temple of Metamorphosis, and from what I was reading on it, apparently they worship something. Is it behind a wall, but they don't know what it is yet? I think is it something like that. It's just a very interesting thing about how they're they do it right now seem to be keeping some of the cards close to their chest. Um, how do y'all feel about? And I want to bring this up because some people like, I guess we would call soft lore, which is a lot is sort of left to the imagination, and there's other people who really like it. They want everything sort of nailed down. How do you two feel about like where would you love to see the lore go?
Oh man, I am a huge fan of Pulp Fiction, and so the more that they just leave gaps and write all of these stories from very personal perspectives is better for me, because it just generates these short dynamic stories that are really about the people and less about all this meta level stuff that I don't necessarily even need to know about the universe
Mm-hmm.
to get a lot of good stories from it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's sort of where, and it's funny. I talked with Scanner Barkley about this. We did an interview like a year ago, and
Mhm.
it reminds me of early 40K lore, where like this was before the Horus Heresy, before whenever the
Mhm.
Primarchs were just this nebulous thing, and it had that certain wonder about it where I feel now with like 40K, I just can't watch lore anymore because it's always about my Primarch is better than your Primarch or something. Um, I guess to me, like, what would you love to see fleshed out more in the lore? But what would you like them to sort of keep, like you said, sort of keep that veil down? Is there anything specific that you think could be fleshed out more that would still have that same feel to it, or you feel it's good right now?
Well, something that I've kind of been thinking about is, if they started doing lore entries that were just like a journal of a trench pilgrim,
Hmm.
or somebody on the forces of New Antioch, or even the heretics, just kind of describing what they see around them, things that are occurring in real time, because the lore that we have so far is, I'd have to look at it. I mean, you call it 1,000 years or what have you, before the game begins. And
Hmm.
so, we have, I would say, enough of the backstory, but it would be nice to know, like, what are the people on the front lines experiencing? What is going on in New Antioch? What is going on, I guess, the boats that were just released recently?
Hmm.
And so on. Just kind of like firsthand accounts, I think, would really paint a nice picture of like where the world and the game is at currently.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. How would you feel about if they did the perspective of like a what is it, like a prince of hell and all his conniving that going on? Like, do you think that would be interesting? Where it would be, because they mention that, and wouldn't that be interesting to hear like the backstory of like this who's like trying to get his superior down, or all that scheming that goes on. Um,
Oh yeah, and I feel like it wouldn't even have to touch on much of the greater world. It would just be, you know, his mad ramblings about you know, uh, almost like if a character out of Game of Thrones were to be keeping a journal, just like all the terrible nonsense that he's getting up to in order to gain an inch in the hierarchy,
mhm.
you know?
That's interesting.
So I think that would be a great place to start for a longer format like a novel or something.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Um, so like, would you? I guess like, and this is something that like I'm fascinated. Like, how humanizing do you make the quote bad guys? Like, do you keep them where? Like, I look at like Beelzebub as sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, who there's sort of almost no redeeming quality. Like, he hates everyone and he just wants to, like, and I think there's a certain appeal to that. But would you like to see the bad guy, like, would you like to see sort of the sympathetic bad guy, or is there something cool, or or interesting about these demons, like that they don't have these redeeming qualities, and that sort of push and pull?
I think they could really build onto that with some sort of like transcript or otherwise of like the communications between, the lords of the court of the seven against, Beelzebub.
Hmm.
Because, he's supposed to be part of the court and so on. And I always joke with our two buddies who play the the Black Grail is like, you must return to the Court of the Seven, but we don't even know fully why, Beelzebub pulled from the court, and like what the whole idea behind that is. Like, are they still allies technically, or are they openly warring against each other? And I don't know, just like some sort of communication, I think would be pretty cool. I mean, almost going back to the idea of, like a journal from somebody on the front lines would be like, so what was the communication? What was said between these demonic forces that now they can't agree even with each other, at this point?
Yeah, I would want almost to see like, are these demonic forces, are they like, I would love to see if they're actually like as petty as they're described. Like, are these are I don't know. I'd really love to sort of see some of that. Like I said, a journal entry would be a really interesting way to kind of flesh that out on a personal
Mhm.
level. That would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Um,
And of course, they're like fallen angels, right? So they're essentially governed by laws that are just like incomprehensible. And so I feel like there would be a lot of room for being able to empathize with them, like at face value of their experiences.
mhm,
But then, like, if you're able to put it into a greater context, it's like, oh yeah, of course, like this is just the absolute epitome of evil. But like, because of this eternity of backstory, it's actually pretty easy to empathize with like their current situation.
mhm.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting that like they use, I think even in the way they describe it, how they call him like the god tyrant, and like they really are sort of providing a level of empathy where it's like, I mean, there is something about you don't want to be, you want your, it's almost like they want their freedom fighters almost in their way of looking at it, right? They are these, they have this thing that I think that we feel, which is not to be, not to be sort of tied down and controlled. Okay.
Yeah, and you're looking at the second creation as like getting all the love of the creator, and the
Yeah.
first creation, the angels having all this jealousy and rage, and well, the seven seats of hell, the sins directed at humanity, you know. So it's really easy like to put in the perspective of just like a sibling rivalry, except the one sibling doesn't really have any comprehension of why,
Yeah, it's
you
just the
know.
youngest who's the baby, It's just like, it's like the oldest got all like all the parents, all the parents were just, that was the training one. And they're like, oh, this is what you're supposed to
So true.
do. I say this as the youngest myself.
Oh, very
Oh
good.
But it's cool. Well,
Something further on that is this weird, like, synergy kind of mirroring between, I don't know, I feel like the Synod versus the Temple of Metamorphosis.
mhm,
They're like two sides of a very, very similar coin, where one side is attempting to reach and communicate with God. The other side has communication with their, lords. However, they found this thing, this doorway in the wall that allows them to, I guess, hypothesize and theorize about what else could be.
yeah.
And it's just this weird kind of push back and forth. So like at the deepest and highest levels, you have one side trying to communicate upward and the other side trying to communicate at the farthest reaches, I guess we'll say downward. And I don't know, it's just that as I've read the lore more and more, I'm seeing this weird balance between the two. Like even at their like smallest, most oddball factions, they kind of have this like symbiosis with each other.
Yeah, it's a weird, it's something like, and I had this conversation before. One thing that I think Trench Crusade has done right now is, well, first of all, I don't know of any other major lore here that doesn't just. I mean, we see a lot of stuff that's based off Christianity, but it's always like change the names and tweak things. But here, Trench Crusade lore just sort of says it out loud, right? It's like it says Christian and Yahweh, and like it's a really interesting because they do that. It changes how we perceive the lore because there is no sort of that slight barrier, that may be like a. I don't know if you guys follow like Blasphemous, the game. How just
Mm.
while the inspirations are there, they're just them tweaking the name gives them a little bit of wiggle room. Whereas Trench Crusade, they're like just, oh yeah, it's just Christ. And like, okay, well. So I think that's interesting that the lore really does that.
Yeah, and it makes it more relatable, I think, for a lot of players too. I mean, I know some people take it a little over the top, and it's like, okay, guys, it's a game. Like
Mhm.
we're looking at lore and artwork for a game. It's fictional, but it's more relatable. I mean, with 40K, there's so much to delve into and names and I mean fantasy as well, but names and ideas and timelines and stuff. Whereas this, it's like, okay, we all know, the World War One setting. We all know a lot of the names involved, a lot of the ideas involved. And I think overall, I think it's a strength for the game. I mean, even with the map coming out, there's a lot of people, a lot of hearsay, a lot of this and that and the other and so on. But it's like, okay, but we're looking at a region that all of us are familiar with too. So
Mm.
that's what kind of spurred a lot of that in the first place. And it's like, it might not be perfect, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the map, and maybe we can throw a little gasoline on that speculation fire because the map did come
Hmm.
out and it looks awesome. Um, with the map, I know there has been some speculation about some new factions coming into the Trench Crusade universe.
Mm.
Maybe get your opinion. Maybe we can throw a little gasoline on this speculation. What factions would you really like to see in Trench Crusade? Um,
Well, I think the one that I'm most excited for that's kind of been nodded at, hinted at, is the idea of Catholic vampires, like Vlad
yeah.
the Impaler's faction. I was like, wait, hold up, hang on. What exactly is this? And what is this going to become? If the vampires are the quote unquote good guys in this realm, I think that'll be kind of a wild take on just the way that we know and understand vampires over the course of, history and ideas and so on.
That would
And
be
for
cool.
me, like, so I know 28 Mag, through James, had created a test model for the combat biologist art, but like I want that to be a
Oh.
fully fleshed faction because the idea of a group associated with the church just like going in to collect flesh samples and live demons and stuff. There's a lot they could do with that is pretty exciting for me. I mean, I know you already have the Iron Sultanate homunculi and all these weird critters, but if you've got, something, who knows, like maybe captured demons or some other odd works with them, that would be cool. I don't think they're going to make the cut because Piernan only wants to do 12 factions total.
Hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
still. I mean,
it'd be cool.
yeah, and I think that's good in the sense that you can come up. I know we all have been working on our own unique factions, but
Oh yeah.
I think for me, and I mean, I would love to see what they're going to do if they are going to do something with the Jewish Knights, and I think they are going to have a Jewish faction,
Oh yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really cool. Like we've never seen that before, and I would love to see what they do with it. Um, I don't know what they would do with it. I'm partial to sort of going towards the sort of the Russian side of things and the Eastern European Jewish heritage. I think that'd be really because it's not been taken before. No one's really ever done that. So I think that would be an interesting one. Maybe bring those in with like I don't know, maybe like the Asians or like even like the gypsies or something. I don't know. That would be a I don't know, like
That would be really interesting. Yeah.
yeah, there is this sort of vagabond class that happen, and I don't know if the Jews would fit in there, but I'm really interested to see what they do, especially Jewish knights. Like, what would those look at? And so
Oh yeah, and with 800 years of changing that entire timeline with the Crusades and all the politicking that went on, during that time, who even knows what these various enclaves look like?
mhm.
And I can only assume that they would be almost indistinguishable from like what we would have seen at the onset of World War One in our timeline. Even to the point where like I had this crackpot idea that they could have a faction or sub-faction where there's like a you know new Noah's Ark, and they literally have a submarine and do naval raids themselves, and yeah,
That
essentially a
would be
nuclear
wild.
sub, and they just have Noahides jammed into the nuclear sub, and they go out in raiding parties and whatnot. I thought that would be really cool,
Yeah.
but
Well, what about
I'm
the
like,
yeah.
now? I know one of them is it maybe you guys are more in line with there's the is it called the Path of the Beast or something? Is that supposed to be another faction, or do we know a lot about that yet? Is that what it's called, the Path of the Beast? I
is
think.
this the pagan
Yeah,
kind of faction they were?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, essentially they become like wolves and sorts of stuff. It's kind of in line with the Temple of Metamorphosis, but instead they're becoming like primal beasts. And I think that would be really cool. I mean, the hard thing with that is mechanically you could do that with heretic legions as a sub-faction,
mhm.
just given what
Hmm.
is already in there. Um, So I don't know if they're gonna make the cut as like a mainline faction, you know?
Hmm. I think though that 12 factions, it's enough, especially with your own creativity and the sub factions. You get a lot in there. So I think that's not, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too stressed out. I mean, I wouldn't want this also to become the long-term longevity of a game, being able to manage a certain level of because I feel the game is definitely every time they release rules, the game gets more balanced and is better. And it's like things that I've heard or maybe were stronger starting to kind of get pulled back a little bit. So although I haven't
Yeah.
followed too much into the meta, but I heard that trench ghosts were apparently very powerful and they've sort of dialed them back a bit. So, but
Yeah, and I mean like you have stuff where the Grail was super powerful, and then he released the campaign rules, and then they ended up running out of gas towards the end of the campaign.
yeah.
So
Right.
there's some stuff like that that needs to be worked on, and really like I feel like a lot of the balancing stuff, people make mountains out of molehills,
Mhm.
and really some imbalance is needed for you to like have a good narrative during your game, and you're just going to end up with options that are more powerful on the table for a given ducat amount,
I don't
and I
know.
I don't think that
It's
that's necessarily a bad thing. Like
is
you
it
have
too much
to
to
play
ask
against.
to have infernal armor on everything? Is that really such a problem? Okay.
I mean,
Honestly, I like playing against Court of the Seven when they were totally fucking turbo juiced. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those were the good days.
It feels like this isn't. I don't imagine this is going to be too much of a tournament game, though. Although I'm sure people will play it. It feels a lot more like a campaigny or a bit of a fun game. So at least that's how I'm playing it, and I'm having fun. Our group, we're not into the super meta, so I think that's good.
mhm.
Um,
No, I mean I waited until turn or game 10 in order to pick up an artillery witch for my heretics. I still have a bolt action on my heretic priest, and
Yeah.
it just suits my vision for the warband.
I did like that they did. I played against a Heretic Witch pre nerf, and I'm glad they nerfed her just a tad bit because she was, wow,
Yeah,
she was
it
blowing
was
me up.
nasty.
Yeah. Well, I would love to have you guys on and talk all day, and I would love to have you guys come on again. I'll continue to sort of love watching your stuff. Maybe, like I said, we before this we were talking about even doing like a little battle, maybe like a tabletop simulator battle. So, there hopefully be
Oh
some
yeah.
more collaboration coming. Um,
Yeah, I'd
but
love that.
with that, so I always like to ask. So, you guys mentioned some of your past with Warhammer Fantasy. Do you guys have a favorite? I always like to ask, what's your favorite faction in sci-fi and fantasy lore for a war game? So each of you guys, y'all can pick one, a sci-fi and fantasy faction lore. That's war game. It has to be war game though.
Yeah, I mean, wait, I only ever played 40K with my buddies' models, so I'm just not as privy. I mean, I really enjoyed Blood Angels as far as 40K goes. For fantasy, it's definitely the Dark Elves. I mean, I'm staring at like 8,000 points of Dark Elves on my shelves here, so if I don't say that, it's going to be a problem.
Hey, Dark Elves are
Oh man.
solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them, man.
I mean, they won
So,
Malekith as the lich as the Phoenix King. Like, I have
it's
high
true.
elf for people who hate that. Anyway.
He was the true and rightful heir.
Oh, did you guys see? He actually got renamed to
Oh.
avoid
What?
lawsuits. Yeah.
Oh,
Because something with Disney using their Marvel. I don't even know what these conglomerates are up to now, but like in the 80s, they named a character Malekith in the Marvel comics.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
So now he goes by Malarian these days.
I don't know.
Larian. Okay, well, he was a
Yep.
high elf, right? Okay, all right.
You may like
Fine.
this.
Yeah.
I always say I'm an end times denier. To me, the Warhammer
Oh,
world
same
is,
here.
yeah, it's still going on. End times never happened.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
But again, I mean, I have 14,000 points of high elves, but like, I love my Empire, man, and maybe that ties back into the whole New Antioch thing. But like, I like the just normal dude fighting against like total incomprehensible nonsense. So for me, Empire Man really, really scratches that itch. As far as sci-fi, it's really hard because I've never been super roped into 40K. So if we're just talking 40K, I actually really like the Gene Stealer cults.
Oh, okay.
Although I've never played them, the aesthetic really gets it for me. But like other sci-fi, I gravitate towards the normal dude just fighting people. Like the
You were a Terran player in StarCraft, so that
yeah,
tracks.
You're
Not a dirty
But like,
Protoss like me. So.
Me too, buddy.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too. Yep.
Well, I'm a Eldar player in 40K, so yeah, I mean that's
Oh, there you go.
yeah, okay, that adds up.
shenanigans. It's all about the shenanigans. Well, guys, one last question I would love to ask is I always like to ask people who come on, what is your dream wargaming experience? So I always say this, like, suppose that you're a billionaire and you have all the time in the world, and what would you do with all the time and all the money in the world for just a dream wargaming experience? Maybe each of you could just give me your dream wargaming experience. No holds barred.
I would. I'd have to buy a castle. We'd have several different tiers. Maybe a tower somewhere, tables set up everywhere, cabinets, glass cabinets, so that you can see, all of the miniatures. You've got all of the options for your terrain, for buildings and so on. I mean, something like that would just be, it would be the best.
that
You know,
sounds
kind of
awesome.
that Victorian setting for, you know, the furniture and everything, just really to, you know, get you in there so that I can roll low and die swiftly. That would be great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I've had a lot of time to think about this because I'm like a systems guy and a forever DM and all of this. And so for me, I think there would be something where you tie in something like the Great Pendragon campaign, where you are playing as a nobleman and his sons and his sons' sons over several generations of kingdom building. You have an entire, you know, like 1 to 1,000 map set up
Oh
where
yeah.
you're tracking your holdings and various things going on. But then also you have whole role-playing sessions and entire war game sessions that are spanning anything from you know, skirmishes and like genuine dungeon delving, all the way up to doing grand, like what would be considered in the old books as a grand army, like over 4,000 it says. But I'm talking like if you're talking like Warhammer fantasy terms, like 40,000 point armies with narrative scenarios that span days.
Give this guy
Month
a
long
billion
game.
for
dollars.
me.
Give this guy
Yeah,
a
yeah.
billion
Give me some
dollars.
money. I'll fucking make it happen. I will curate an experience that the Grogs will write about for generations.
That
All
is
right.
that is awesome. That is awesome. Guys,
I love it.
thank you so much for coming on Saturday, and Tom from the Is It Saturday YouTube. Please, they're getting close to 1,000. So anyone who's hearing this,
Almost there.
please go like, subscribe to their channel. Get them to 1,000. You know, help them out. Love your work. I'll continue to
Thank
watch
you.
your bat reps. I was watching your earlier one. I think it came out today. I was watching that artillery
Yep.
witch blow up some lieutenant or something.
She got some
So
work
she
done.
got some work done.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys so much. Maybe could you tell us a little bit of what you have planned for the future?
Well, we've got what, 2 games left in our campaign series.
Oh
We
yeah.
want to do a couple of kind of one-off games, maybe 700 or 900 points. We might even delve back into like some bolt action, maybe even some Mordheim, before we get another campaign series started. So, you know, we're
Play
going
some
to play
Tonk.
around. Maybe some Tonks. Yeah, there was talk of Tonks. That's a nice, easy game to pick up too through, what was that, through 28?
Yeah, Apocrypha now has the rule book posted up on their 28 website.
Okay. That's nice.
Super
Lots
quick
of,
and
lots
easy.
of,
It's like put down whatever tank you have, and you just pilot that tank, and you know you can play up to 8, 10 people, whatever, and it's a good palate cleanser.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out. Well, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.